Maybe I'd be happy to let it all go. Dedicate my life to making jelly molds. Learn to cook and learn to sew. I'm a happy homemaker.
Hi, and welcome to the Comfy Couch. My name is Tracy, and I'm your host, and I am coming to you from a beautiful, sunny, hot day in Toronto, where we are in the midst of a heat wave. I've now shut all the windows, turned off all the fans, because otherwise it's just too loud when I'm podcasting. So if I start sweating and, forgive that. But anyway, welcome back to the Comfy Red Couch. I have been away for the past couple of years. Isaac, Nathaniel, and I went on a camping trip to Cape Cod. We stopped in Boston beforehand to celebrate both Nathaniel's and my birthday. And then we went on to Cape Cod and had a lovely little camping trip. I've got some things to share from there as well. I did do a couple of yarn store visits, which I will talk about as well. And I am ready to share some finished objects as well as some works in progress that I have been up to. It has been a while since I podcast last, so my memory needs to be jogged a bit. First thing I should tell you is where to find me. I am Tracy RR on Ravelry, and I am Comfy Red Couch on Instagram. And if you are new to the podcast, this is primarily a knitting podcast, although I do sometimes bring in other crafts. And I also talk about little things that have been going on in my life. And this week I will be sharing some videos from my trip as well. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. You know I always love to have you here. This week, the Comfy Red Couch is actually quite full, but there is plenty of room for you to join me. And I am excited to share with you all of the things that are filling up the Comfy Red Couch as well. But first, let's start off with some tea time. And for tea time today, I'm just drinking some Snapple that I brought home from the grocery store in Cape Cod. And we brought a few things home. If I don't drink this now, the boys are going to drink it. So I'm going to drink some lovely peach Snapple, give it a good shake, pop the lid off, and let's say cheers to a wonderful summer so far, and a cheers to a wonderful summer to continue. I have to say, I think I prefer homebrew where I can add my own sugar. This is really, really sweet. Anyway, it will do for today. It will be something to cool me off. And I also have something else to share on tea time. Not tea, but I bought myself a new Swell. This is the Sip Swell. Sip by Swell. And I picked this up in Hyannis. It was a rainy day and we went to the mall. We went to the Barnes & Noble and I saw this and it was just too cute with all the kitties and a little gray kitty and a little gray mouse hidden in there. So I am loving this bottle, and I filled it up with some Cape Cod water from the campground before we left, drank it all the way home. And now I get to fill it up with things I want to from here. So anyway, that was one of the things that I picked up that I will be putting some cold brew tea into, especially once I'm back to work in the fall. Anyway, let's move on to all the creative things that I've been getting up to the past couple of weeks. As you probably know, when you go on holidays, packing is super important. And of course, one of those things that you have to really, really think about packing are what crafts are you going to be taking. And this year, I really, really tried to limit the number of projects that I was going to take with me to Cape Cod, because I know in the past I have put tons and tons of projects in the car and we've gone on our road trip, or I've put it in the suitcase and we've flown somewhere, and I come home with those bags still with the yarn in them, untouched, and maybe a project or two done if I'm lucky. And this year I thought I wanted to try and be just a little bit more how would you, I guess, more practical when I was choosing what to take with me. So I knew I was going to take the project that is in this bag, and it got quite a bit of love. I knew I was going to take this project bag, which also went to Algonquin with me, and this is now a finished object, and I'll share the yarn from it, which I wasn't able to share before. This is my lovely Nora George yarns, and this is the Beekeeper. And this was the Sock Society, which came with me as well, but it didn't get much love on the holiday as I would have liked to. It got some love in Boston, but once we got camping, there were cables involved, and I was on the beach. I didn't want to lose my lovely little cable needle from Signature on the beach, so it didn't get as much love as it wanted. Plus, it was one of those sort of, you had to think about the pattern a little bit, and I was not in a deep thought type of mood. So this came as well with me. And then I had one more project that I took with me, and it is in my Nancy Drew bag. So if you have tuned into the podcast before, you've seen that I like to use my Nancy Drew for mystery projects. So things I can't really share anything about. So you just know there's something going on here. And Nancy, she's keeping her zipper fairly closely tightened. We'll say tightened. She's keeping that zipper tightened. And Nancy got no love at all. She got carried to Cape Cod and back, which, you know, I think she's from the eastern seaboard anyway. So she was probably very happy to be back home. But yeah, no love. So I still need to start this project. I do have a little bit of time, and that is going to be one of the projects I get up to in the next week or two. But until, I think, September, I won't be able to share much about what's keeping Nancy Drew busy. So these were the 3 projects I brought on holiday with me. Isaac also brought his project, but he didn't do much work on it. However, I did, so I will share this one in a little bit. Before I share my holiday knitting, I thought I would share something that I finished before I left for Boston and Cape Cod, and that has been living in my Swan bag by Bags by Awesome Granny, and this is the test knit for the Shawl Society, and this is Shawl 3, the Wick Shawl. And I wasn't able to share anything about this project with you before I left. So first I will start off talking about the yarns that I used. And I used these 3 yarns from Shalimar, and this is the Airy Base, A-E-R-I-E. And I used Birdcage, which is this gorgeous greeny blue, and you're going to see this a little bit later on as well. I used Sand Dollar, also going to make another reappearance soon. And I used Damask. Originally, when I was choosing yarns for the Wick Shawl, I was looking at these 2 along with Tangerine Dream, which is an orange, and the 3 colors looked spectacular together, but I was really wanting to see a green and a purple, or a bluish, like a turquoise and a purple. So I ended up going to Uknit and picked up the purple to go with the 3, and I think they just look so soft and pretty, and just a beautiful summery set of colors. And I did put a photograph on release day of my Wick Shawl on Instagram, but here it is flowing. And I really, really loved using the Shalimar Airy. It was just such a nice, soft yarn to work with. It is a single, so it does sometimes split a little bit, but I really loved how the Birdcage and then the Sand Dollar mixed, especially in the striping section, and then of course with that lovely little purple punch at the bottom. I think the orange would have been absolutely gorgeous as well, but I was really wanting more of that soft look rather than that really poppy punch of color. So that's why I went with the purple over the orange, although I think I would have won either way. But it is a very large triangular shawl, and I am going to be gifting this very shortly, and I hope that the recipient loves it. Anyway, that is a finished object, one of them that I have to share, and it is lovely to have the Wick shawl out into the world. A lovely, simple, just calming knit. I had a bit of a challenge with the deadline back in June. It was just a busy time of the year, and the July pattern was just what I needed to really relax and knit. I did a little bit of this at Algonquin Park, and then I came home and finished it before I went on the camping trip with the boys to Cape Cod and Boston. And so it was really great to have that off the needles beforehand. As I said, I did use the Shalimar yarns, and this is Aerie, A-E-R-I-E, and it's written so small, I just can't read it. I think it's 70% superwash merino, 20% kid mohair, and 10% silk. I think that's what it says. But my eyesight, when I'm doing small little reading, not as good as it used to be. Anyway, that is the yarn that I used for the Wick shawl, and I'll just pop it back into my bag for now, and I'm going to wrap it up and gift it later on. So that is one project to share. Now let us talk about something else I worked on before. Got the yarn caught in the zipper. Don't you hate when that happens? Okay, let's just move on. I'll fix it later. Anyway, the next thing I want to talk about, I gave it a little bit of love before I went away to Boston, and this project has been on the needle since Christmas Eve, because this is my Christmas Eve cast on, and this is the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas socks that Danny of Little Bobbins designed. And I think the last time I shared this with you, I had done one Christmas tree. I was really hoping to get this done by the end of July so I could call these my Christmas in July socks, but I just had too much on the go. I wanted to get Wick off the needles. I was also working on the Handmade Sock Society socks, which I get to share with you in a few minutes as well. So these did not get finished. However, they are pretty much, I think I'm right about to, not even right about to, I've already started to do the heel flap. So, and I do have a counter in here so I know exactly where I am. So one sock is done. I really hope I get these done by Christmas Eve, and I'm sure I will. I'm really wanting to get them off the needles before I go back to work in the fall. It'd be really great to free up my signatures as well. But I did give a little bit of love to my Christmas Eve cast on. One day I will have a beautiful pair of Christmassy socks, but it's August, it's hot. I am wearing bare feet most days, so I'm not too panicked about that. Now I'm going to talk about the projects that came with me to Boston and Cape Cod. And when I first started planning the trip and trying to figure out which projects I was going to take with me, I knew I needed to be frugal with the amount of projects that I was going to take because I was the sole driver. So the first day I drove from Toronto to Boston, which is about 9 or so hours, and then of course there's stops happening. So no car knitting gets done at that point because of course I'm driving. I can't knit and drive. Maybe one day the technology will be there, but for this road trip, no, it was just me driving solo. And then of course any car trips that we took from Boston to Salem or Boston down to Cape Cod, again, no car knitting. And of course on the way home, straight from Cape Cod to Toronto, no car knitting. So I knew that a lot of the knitting that I would normally have done if Greg had come with us was not going to get done. So there's no point bringing a bunch of projects that are going to come home and then I'm going to feel disappointed at myself for not having them done. So I tried to limit it to my 2 projects. So that was 1, actually put that there, and 2. So I was going to do 2 projects, And then, of course, I decided to bring Nancy with me. And Nancy got no love. So let's just put her off to the side because we're not even going to... Nancy got no love. So what I worked on while I was on holiday, for the most part, was this project and Isaac's project. So let's share Isaac's project with you first, since it wasn't even my own, but this is the one I did a little bit of knitting on because this was the easiest project to pick up on the go while we were in a restaurant waiting for breakfast, or while we were at the drive-in, or if I was just sort of sitting waiting for the boys. This was always in my bag so that I could grab it and just start knitting. Isaac did a tiny bit on it, but for the most part, it was me. And I did share this project before I left because I set it up for Isaac. And this is his Ravenclaw cowl, and it is the Tale as Old as Time cowl. And it's coming along. So because it is a cowl and not stripes, and these are self-striping micro stripes, the yarn the style of project that I'm using and my needle size is too big to have full stripes going as they would normally go on a sock. But I'm really loving how it is striping out. A lot of fun. And I think this is where Isaac had left off, and this is what I got done while we were out and about. So it is coming along. It's probably very likely that it will be me doing this project, although Isaac might pick it up every once in a while and do a few rounds, drop a stitch, and then of course I have to pick it up and fix it. I did have a couple of spots where I did need to do some surgery, and there was, I think, a yarn over that had been popped in somewhere along here, and there was also a drop stitch. So there's a bit of a gap happening there because there were a couple of drop stitches that happened, and it is all back in order now, but hopefully a blocking will put that out there. And then really once it's blocked and being worn, I think it should be good. Anyway, it is coming along. It got some love on the vacation, more so than I thought I would give it, but it was a great project to have. As I said, out and about, I could just pick it up, and it was just stockinette, just knitting in the round. I was very thankful for this because my other projects required a lot more thought, and there's something to be said about bringing a knit that is just mindless. So that is one of the things I worked on. The other thing I worked on is in this bag, and it's crinkly because it is a kit that I bought, and this is a project that I have been wanting to do for over 2 years. I bought the yarn 2 years ago when I was in London from Loop, and this is the On the Spice Market kit, and it's the exact same yarn I used for the Wick shawl. So this is Shalimar Airy, and I am loving using the Airy. I'm loving the colors. It does, as I said, split a little bit. I was debating even using Airy for the next Shawl Society pattern, but I'm not going to. But this is Sand Dollar, and I will go through, I think, the colors on the shawl itself. So they are all Shalimar Airy. You can buy this kit from Loop online in London, or if you're there in person, you can probably pick one up. I am loving it, and I had 2 sets of yarns that I had put aside to do the On the Spice Market shawl. One had been this kit that I had bought, and the other one is a La Bien-Aimée kit, or it's a bunch of minis and then 1 skein of the singles. And I was really torn because I wanted to do one or the other for the Rainbow Along that Jules of So Sweet Violet and Amy of Little Tailoress / Dandelion and Dogwood Yarns were hosting. And I really wanted to do a rainbow shawl. So I was trying to decide, do I do the Shalimar kit or do I do the La Bien-Aimée kit? And I decided to go with the Shalimar because I had specifically bought the entire kit for it, and I also felt that the colors were very beachy and just will remind me of my holiday in Cape Cod. So as I said, I am reusing a few of the colors that I used in the Wick shawl, including Birdcage, which is this gorgeous greeny blue. And then Sand Dollar is my main color that is sort of put through the stripes. This next color is Silly Old Bear. This one here, this beautiful light orange, is Sapote. This is Tangerine Dream, and I talked about using Tangerine Dream, the Sand Dollar, and the Birdcage for the Wick shawl, and I think that would have looked really, really spectacular, but I ended up going with the purple. I then have Shortcake, which is this lovely poppy pink, and I would love a full skein of this. And then the last one is Tamarillo. Maybe it's Tamarillo because it's got the double L's and sort of Spanish, but I'm going to call it Tamarillo. And it is this beautiful, beautiful pink. Together, oh my goodness, I love it. I have lots of ends to still weave in. But this shawl, it makes me so, so happy because I did buy the kit from our vacation in London, so I have happy memories there, and I've knit quite a bit of it. I think I got to about here, this section here in Cape Cod, so around the light orange. So all of this just beach knitting. Now we were camping in a tent, and Nickerson State Park is where we like to camp. There's no electricity there, so once it gets dark, there's no knitting happening, and you don't even want to try to knit in bed, especially when you're using Hiya Sharps, because I was on a blow-up bed, and you don't want to puncture the blow-up bed, because in the middle of the night, because you want to knit, not a good thing. Anyway, this is my work in progress on the Spice Market. I have now done my blue, my Silly Old Bear. I am currently working on Sapotes. I'm almost done. I've got 4 more rows of this color, then I'm going to put in, and it's very hard to see, there's a little slight Sand Dollar slip stitch set of rows there. And then there are 3 more colors. I have the Tangerine Dream next, the Shortcake, and then the Tamarillo, and then cast off, bind off, whatever you want to call it, and then I am done. And I better be so careful because I almost pulled these off the needles, and that is not a good thing to do when you are so close to being finished a shawl that is just so gorgeous and bringing me so much happiness and joy. So hopefully next week I will have this done, all the ends secured, blocked, and I will be able to share another finished object with you, because my goal is to get this off the needles sooner rather than later, and I am really looking forward to wearing this in the fall. And as I said, lots of happy memories, not only from my camping trip with the boys to Boston and Cape Cod, but actually just to Cape Cod. I did not cast this on in Boston. There's another little thing I need to share about this one. But it also has the happy London memories as well. Now, one more thing about this project. This was this year's birthday cast on. So we left Boston in the morning, drove to Cape Cod, set up our tent in the rain on my birthday, and then we went down to the beach, which was a very, very misty day. The sun had gone. It was a bit chilly, and I do have some video footage of that day where we were looking for the seals, and that is when I started my birthday cast on. So there, even more happy memories to go in there. Now, when I did get and there's lots of crinkling in this bag, each of the balls of yarn are wrapped and labeled. There's Tangerine Dream, Tamarillo, and all the other colors are in there too. So I will have some leftovers. This is what I have left of my birdcage because I'm now done my birdcage. And I am also done Silly Old Bear. So I do have some leftovers. I had read that someone had a bit of difficulty having enough of their sand dollar left. I think I'm going to be good. So, and if I wasn't, luckily I have the other project, the Wick project. I've got lots of yarn left over there. So I think I will be good for weights. And now it's just a matter of finishing, securing, and then wearing, blocking of course, then wearing. But that is one project that got a lot of love on my holiday, and there might even be a little bit of sand in there because I laid it on the beach to take a photograph. And the last project that I worked on my holiday, but not so much. I started it up at Algonquin Park when I went up with the boys and my parents, and I cast on the beach in Algonquin Park, just by the water's edge. Obviously it's on a beach, so yes, but fresh water, not salt water. And I worked on it a little bit while I was at home, and then when we went to Boston, in the hotel, I did a few rows here, a few rows there, and I got to the point where I was able to turn the heel, and then I didn't touch it till I got back. But now I have a finished object to share with you. So as I think I shared at the very, very beginning, I used Nora George yarns, and this is the Beekeeper. And this is a beautiful colorway filled with gorgeous little specks. And when I first was debating whether to purchase this set, and it does come with an orange mini, or it did when I purchased it, I was really on the fence about getting it. But then I started knitting with it, and there are these gorgeous little pops of light pink and bright green and purples, and the fact that it's on a yellowish base, which for me, I don't love yellow, it was bearable because of course all those lovely pops of pink, purple, green speckles, even yellow speckles, just lovely, lovely to work with. And there are some darker pops in there too. These are the Honeybee Dance socks, and this is the latest Handmade Sock Society pattern from Helen Stewart. And take one off the blocker. It has this gorgeous lace pattern on the front, little lovely honeybees, and then this cabling detail down the sides, and the back is plain. I think I tend to like all over designs on socks, and I think if I were not test knitting this, I would be very tempted to take the cables from here, and they're just twisted stitches, and I would love to put 2 down the back of the leg. I think that would just make it look just that little bit more, give it a little bit more of a pop. I think that's what I would do if I were knitting it as just a fun knit. But it is a beautiful, beautiful pattern on the front. For the Magnolia socks, they were also plain back and patterned front. But I think, and with the Magnolia socks, I took the pattern on the front with Helen's permission, and I also put the pattern on the back. Because as I said, I really like the look of an all-over design sock. But I just didn't feel that this pattern on the front and the back, and it could be done for sure, would be as effective. So, as I said, I think if I were to do these again, what I would do, same on the front, and then I'd take those twisted stitches and I would just put them on the back just for a little bit more of a honeybee dance. But otherwise, they are a gorgeous, gorgeous pair of socks. They have my lovely favorite heel flap and gusset, so they fit nicely. Although I have to say, I probably should have done the large size, and that's because my foot circumference is 9 1/4 at the widest part of my foot and also at my ankle. So these would probably fit a little bit better if I had done large. And even though I'm a size 8 US sock, you could adjust the length, but it's the width that you need to really keep in mind. So it does have some stretch, but I think the large would have been a smarter choice now that I look at it. So I think future test knits, I'll be doing the large just so they fit better. And they do have a lovely toe as well. And what I did with, and this, my notes are in Ravelry as well, I stopped. I've got 12 full repeats of the honeybee, and the last 3 rows have this garter detail, but I didn't want to have the garter detail and then going into the toe. So I stopped at round 9, I believe. So I finished round 9 and then started in with the toe instructions. So for me, I am, as I said, a size 8 to an 8 1/2 foot, depending, I guess, on the shoe make, usually an 8. And I have 12 repeats, 11 full plus 9 rounds of the 12th repeat. So loving these, and oh my gosh, in the Beekeeper colorway. Look at these gorgeous, gorgeous colors that Tracy has dyed up. It's just such a soft and delicate speckle that just a dream to knit with. And I always, always love using Tracy's yarns because they are just so, so special. Anyway, another finished object. So 2 test knits finished, and I'm so happy that I have finally been able to share these with you. So what is, now, so this, where's the yarn? Here we go. I had 35 grams, by the way, left of my yarn at the end. So 65 grams to do the medium-sized socks, ending at, as I said, 12th repeat, partially done. Okay, what have I got on tap? More test knits. So not a lot to share, but just a couple of things. So Nancy Drew, a test knit that I will be working on. And then I have a new test knit in my lovely Paris bag. And this is the next Shawl Society pattern. I've got the pattern inside. I have my yarn, which I still need to wind, but I have chosen what yarn I'm going to use. And I need to just get my needles all set up. And once I've got my yarn wound, I'm ready to go. So that will be something that happens in the next little while. But I want to get my On the Spice Market shawl off the needles first because I'm just so excited to get that one done. And then I have another test knit that I am going to be doing that I can share, and that is the Soul Sisters pattern. And this is a pattern jointly created by Amy of Little Tailoress and Jules of So Sweet Violet. And these are what the socks look like, and they're really quite pretty. They're same styling, so toe up as the Sweet Bee socks, so toe up socks up to the cuff, and it has the Gaudet heel as well, which is great for having no gaps, so love that heel. And it's got just a beautiful lace pattern. Both Amy and Jules have put photographs on their Instagram pages, so if you want to see what that sock looks like a little better than my color printer photo, you can definitely take a look at Instagram. And I think probably Jules might have it in her Ravelry. And Scout has come up to join me, and she is looking so pretty. She got a haircut on Sunday afternoon, and she is just shaved right down. She is so much more comfortable and she looks gorgeous. We had it done professionally this year. I would not let Greg take the scissors to her like he did last year. If you remember seeing that episode, if you happened to watch last year. This year, she went up to the groomers. She's so pretty now that she's gotten her haircut. Anyway, let's get back to the Soul Sisters socks. I am using the Scrappy Thread project bag. It is pink and green, and my project bag matches my yarn so well. I did put a photograph on Instagram, and this is my watermelon self-striping yarn. It goes perfectly with my bag, so this was a no-brainer to choose. Summer colors. I bought this self-striping yarn by Biscotte C. I think it's now just Biscotte, but I bought it a couple of years ago, and I've been wanting to use it ever since, and I knew I wanted to use it at some point this summer for a pair of socks. So as soon as Amy and Jules asked if I would test knit this project, I knew that I wanted to do it in the watermelon self-striping. So as I said, when I bought the yarn, the company was Biscotte AC, and I think it is now just Biscotte, and this is a Canadian yarn dyer from Quebec, I think Montreal area, and this one is Melon d'eau pastel, so watermelon but pastel. So they do have a regular watermelon, which is a lot more vibrant than this one. I like that this one's toned down just that little bit, not quite as pink and bright green as it could be, but there are definitely lovely pops. So I'm really excited to see how this one knits up. And this pattern is going to be, make sure I've got it the right way. I think my printer has been a bit funny. It didn't want to pick up Soul Sisters. It is going to be toe up. It's going to have Jules Gaudet heel, which is great because you don't get the gaps when you are picking up. It's a really easy heel to do. And then it has a beautiful design that Amy has created on the front. And I'm excited to share those with you. I am hoping that, as I said, I will have these done, at least one done by the next time I sit down with you. So we shall see how that goes. And but I know it's a very short turnaround, a couple of weeks, and then this pattern will be out there. There are a few other test knitters. Again, it's the lovely test knitting group that we did the Sweet Bee socks with, and lovely chatter is going on in our little Instagram. They've all started. I have not. I plan to get this on the needles hopefully tomorrow. I want my On the Spice Market off the needles first, so I'm doing a little bit of selfish knitting. I'm needing selfish knitting. Anyway, that is all I have to share with you for finished objects and works in progress, and that was a lot, which is interesting because I really feel like I didn't get up to much knitting while I was on holiday because, again, I was the sole driver. I didn't have much car knitting happening, so I'm very pleased though with what I did get done. And now it's time to share some of the things I got while I was away. It's now time to move along to brown paper packages. And this week on brown paper packages, some of the things I'm going to share aren't quite knitting related, but they are things that I picked up while I was away that brought me some joy. And I tried not to get too much. I did buy a couple of dresses from a vintage store in Salem and they're new dresses, but the store sells a lot of vintage style clothing. So I bought a couple of dresses for one for a wedding that I'll be attending in September, and then also for work. And I bought a pink crinoline also to wear under that, and it looks fantastic under my green and pink polka dot dress that I made earlier this year. I still need to fix the shoulders, but the crinoline looks just great under that dress. So I had seen this store in Salem 4 years ago, the last time we were there, and I was so tempted to get a crinoline, but they closed the shop early and I didn't get it. And so when we went back this year, I knew that I wanted to stop by that store. So I don't have them show you here, but just thought I would share. That's something I did buy while I was away. And I don't do a lot of clothes shopping, but it was nice to get some new things. I also bought some overalls, which I love overalls, so I got a pair of denim overalls. Anyway, let's move on to some of the things that I picked up while I was in the States that make me so happy. And one of the things I got was the H2O Sea Salt Body Gloss. I love this stuff, and it's just a spray, and you rub it on. They do sell this at Disney World, and I had my leftovers from the last time we went to Disney World, but I was really being frugal with it because H2O, while they used to have stores around North America and even in the Eaton Centre in Toronto, they've closed all of the Canadian stores for sure, and I think they've even closed all of the US stores, and they are working primarily as an online company. I don't think any of the locations are open anymore. I could be wrong though. And they do have a deal with Disney World, and they do all of their products for the hotels, and then they sell some of the products. I love the sea salt line, and I also love their foot scrub and foot lotion. I can't find that though. Those are some of my favorite products, and I've been really stingy with them because I haven't been able to find them. It turns out that I think it's Ulta, U-L-T-A, in the US sells, it's sort of like a Sephora, but it's called Ulta, and they sell H2O products. So I picked up a couple of these, and it just sprays on, you rub it in, and it's just a bit of a moisturizer, which, smells heavenly. So I did pick up a couple of bottles of this so that I have it, because unfortunately, even though H2O does have the online shop, they don't deliver to Canada. So, love, love, love. So that was one of my things. I wanted to find the sea salt. I was really hoping to find the foot cream and the scrub, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, that was one of the things I bought. Another couple of things that I bought that are completely not craft related. I bought Happiness Magnetic Poetry Kit, and just words, and I'm going to put this on my filing cabinet at work. And the things that I'm actually sharing right now are for work. So when I go back to work in a couple of weeks, these are coming with me. So my Happiness Poetry Kit, and I've been looking for, and I don't know why I can't seem to find what I'm looking for in Canada, to-do lists. I just want a to-do list pad so that when I'm at work, I can write down what it is I need to do, because sometimes I'll be in the middle of one job and then I get a phone call or someone comes to see me and something else gets added to my to-do list. So I want to have a piece of paper that I can then write down so I don't forget what things need to get done, because there's always things that need to be done at work. And I just thought these were cute. So this one here is I Totally Need To. And this one here is Things to Do. The only thing I wish both of these had, and it's just so silly, is I just wish they had a box at the side so I could check off that I've done it rather than putting a scratch through. But anyway, that I can always just put a check mark at the end. So that is just something that I wanted to pick up, and I did find. I found another one in, there's a paper store. They had a nice one, but I didn't get it, and I never got back there. So, and one more thing that I bought for work to put things on, or I might even keep it here to put stitch markers on. It says Choose Joy, and this was from Staples, and it's just like a glass tray, and I just liked it. I may keep it at home, because wouldn't it just be perfect for putting stitch markers or other lovely things on. Anyway, that is a decision I will make in the next couple of weeks. Another thing, and I already shared this with you, was I did buy my Sip by Swell bottle, which brought me a lot of joy as well. I actually have to say I do like the shape of this Swell bottle better than my Liberty ones, just because it's easier to hold and it has a more solid base to it. But my Liberty Swell bottles are super, super pretty, so I'm not going to complain. The next things that I am going to share with you, you're not going to fully understand why I think these are knitting related, but they kind of are, and they are candles. And these are candles that I buy from the National Seashore in Cape Cod, and every time we go, I have to get these. I love, love, love them. So the first type of candle I got were the cranberry ones, and these are just regular dipped candles. They have a gorgeous, gorgeous cranberry scent, and oh my goodness, I love, love, love these. These to me are knitting related because I actually store them with my yarn. So they're in these lovely boxes, and I will put, especially the cranberry, smells so good, I put them in with my yarn, and then when I go through my stash and I pick out a skein of yarn, it smells like cranberries from Cape Cod. So that is why this is kind of knitting related. And I bought 3 packages of the cranberry, and I also bought this kind. I love this one. These are the bayberry candles. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Cape Cod is actually famous for cranberries, and we did pass a cranberry bog or two, but they won't start to harvest them until the fall. But that's one of the things that Cape Cod exports, are cranberries. These are the bayberries, and bayberries they go into blossom, or they start to develop form in the autumn. So I've actually never seen a bayberry on a tree, and they have a nice soft smell to them, and they're this gorgeous green. They're not quite as strong as the cranberry, but I like these, and I'm going to have to cheat and use my glasses to read this to you. So let's get the glasses on so I can read. There we go. I look smart now. These genuine bayberry candles made from the wax on the berries of the bayberry shrub have been the traditional holiday candles since colonial times. Burned to the knob on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, they bring good luck for the coming year. A white powder called bloom forms naturally on the surface of the bayberry candles as they age. So that's what it says inside the box. There is also a little poem on the outside of the box, and I'll read that to you now. A bayberry candle burned to the socket puts luck in the home, food in the larder, and gold in the pocket. So I have bought a few of these as well, and when I'm putting my Christmas Eve cast on my needles, I'm hoping that I will remember to burn these as well. So usually I forget, I do one either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, but I always love getting the bayberry and the cranberry candles, and as I said, I store them with my yarn, and just brings really, really nice scents to my yarn. I do not put the bayberry and the cranberry in the same yarn boxes though, because otherwise the scents compete. So it's either a cranberry box or a bayberry box, and then I can find my candles and my yarn. Anyway, that is the sort of non-crafting related. I did also stop, as I said, I bought the Choose Joy at Staples, and I bought some friction pens in some different colors as well. I could have got these in Canada, but I picked them up while I was out. Plus I like the fact they had the fluorescent ones, and I got them at a discount. So I thought, I'll just get them now. The next thing I am going to share with you for brown paper packages is something I ordered a while back and I picked up from my sister-in-law, and these are my signature DPNs, my gold ones. These are I think these are my 3mm or maybe my 3.25, and these are I think these are the 6, maybe the 5mm. But I've kept them in these containers for a bit because I will be putting them in my lovely Grace's Cases DPN holder. And the bigger golds will go here, the smaller golds will go there, and I will then have a complete set of signature DPNs. Plus I also have all of the tiny, and I mean tiny, and I love these little cable needles that Signature has, and this is what I used for my Dance of the Honeybees songs. So knitting related for sure, and I will be putting those in a little bit later on this afternoon. So I've been holding on to them in these containers to share. And next thing to share is definitely knitting related, because when we were in Cape Cod, I did visit 2 knitting stores. I visited the Yarn Basket, which is the place where my love of knitting it was rejuvenated. It didn't start there because I used to knit before I went to Cape Cod several years ago. But what happened was we went to this hardware store, and attached to the hardware store is the Yarn Basket. And I was browsing in the yarn store while Greg was getting some things from the hardware area, and I thought I could make scarves for everybody for Christmas. So I bought a bunch of yarn, I guess maybe 5 years ago now, and have not stopped knitting since. So taught myself how to do continental, because before that I used to get really bad carpal tunnel syndrome. And so the Yarn Basket is really where it all began again for me, my love for knitting. And so there's a bit of a soft spot in my heart. I did visit, I did not purchase anything there. I really was trying to limit yarn purchases. I was not 100% successful though. So we also went to Chatham one day, and there's a lovely yarn store in Chatham. And I went in, boys wanted to wait in the car. It was a gray day, so I just popped the windows down. It was cool, so they were all good. They did not want to go in a yarn store. It was near closing, it was all good. And this is from A Great Yarn in Chatham. And this was what I bought. And I was planning to only buy so that I wasn't buying any yarn. If you saw, I have a bag. Yeah. So I did buy a shawl pin, and this is made out of clay, and it's got some fun glazing on it. Some really great coloring there. And so just a clay shawl pin, and then it has a nice little pin to keep it in place. So that is one of things that I picked up. But I had a hard time deciding which shawl pin I wanted more. And this is the one I actually chose first. Same colorings, very similar, but a bit of a different shape. So this one here, really great colors, patterns there. Again, clay, handmade, and a different shape head on the pin compared to the other one. So I can mix and match, which is always a welcome thing to do. So went into the store thinking I'll just get some accessories for knitting. While I was there, I was looking at all of the samples, and I saw this fantastic sample, and I tried it on, and it fit so nicely. I decided that I needed to take a photograph of it because I need to knit this pattern. And I was thinking of what yarn I had in my stash. You know where that's going, right? I got back to the campsite that night and I could not get this out of my mind. And it kept me awake dreaming about it. I'm just going to move these out of the way because I don't want them to get broken. So the pattern is called Stone Point. And this is what it looks like. It's just a pullover poncho. There's some more pictures of it. Really simple. There is seaming on the shoulders that will have to be done. But when I put it on, it just draped so nicely, and it would be like, it's the perfect thing, especially if you lived by a beach and you went for walks, to throw over. And of course, they've styled it with the beach in the background. They had it done in some Fiber Company yarn, which is British yarn. And when I go on holiday, I like to try and think of buying yarns that I can only get at that location. However, Fiber Company yarn is harder for me to get in Canada. So I bought some Fiber Company yarn in the exact same colorway that they had done their sample in. So this is Luma yarn, and it's just a natural color yarn. So this one is in a bit of a darker beige. This one was done in the cream, and this colorway is called Blanca. And I got 7 skeins of this yarn. It wasn't terribly expensive. It was reasonable, and I saved a little bit as well because I had a bit of a birthday discount that I was able to use. So I did buy yarn while I was on holiday, but like my On the Spice Market shawl, I think that once I start knitting this, it's going to have some of those lovely Cape Cod memories. And then the night before, when I had bought the clips, I had seen this bag, and I purchased the yarn, and then as I was walking out, I thought, I have got to get this bag. And it was actually very, very reasonable. It's waterproof. I need a waterproof bag. It says Scout at the bottom. Who cannot get a bag that says Scout? And when you lift the flap, it has all of the tools that a Scout needs to have. And inside the bag, there is a list of things. There's a little bit of a pocket that happens there. But there is a list of things to be avoided. And I will carefully... So here's the list of things to be avoided. Poison ivy, rattlesnakes, live wires, washouts, regrets. See, I did not want to go away and have any regrets. Wasps, trash, cheap shots, wildfires, sucker punches, clinging, Jimson weed, I don't know what that is, salty language, ooh, disrespect, road rash, mad dogs, fear, rug burns, stings, the gutter, slacks, wet matches, deadfalls, and of course, scorpions. These are all things that need to be avoided. However, regrets, I think, is the biggest one that needs to be avoided. So it does have this gorgeous handle on it. It is made from recycled bags as well. Woven from 95% post-consumer material. It was actually, I think, $12.95 for this bag. So nothing too much. And it makes me so, so happy. And it was the perfect bag to put my wonderful yarn in for my trip. I can now pop in my pattern And I'll keep the shawl pins out and put them away properly. But one day, when I pull this out, you know what I will be working on. So, oh, by the way, I showed the pattern, but I didn't tell you who it was by. So, Stone Point is by Courtney Kelly. So I will put that up, but I love it. It's simple. It will take a little bit of time because, you know, it's got a little bit of lace there and it is a garment, but it's going to look beautiful. And as I said, I tried on the sample from the shop and I was a goner. Glasses back on. I just wanted to mention why I ended up choosing to use this yarn rather than going into my stash and maybe doubling 2 yarns. One, this is a DK. I don't have a lot of DK in my stash, and I did consider using a couple of skeins of fingering weight held double. I also considered using fingering weight held double with mohair, and I've got some lovely combinations. But there was something about the way this draped and the fiber content that really drew me back to buying the Luma. And the yarn is 50% wool, 25% cotton, 15% linen, and 10% silk. So a yarn combination that is definitely not in my stash. And I just loved the way it draped. So I thought if I really wanted to do this justice, to do it in the yarn that was called for, and that is what I am going to do. So that was my major yarn purchase while I was away. And let's get these things off so I can see properly. I need my glasses for reading, but for seeing and everyday distance, it's so much easier without them. I am finding I am becoming a lot more reliant on these when I'm knitting though, and I don't like wearing glasses. You always have to clean them. And I have one more thing to share on brown paper packages, and it is a spoiler alert, and it is my Stitchery kit for July. It arrived while I was away, and funny thing is I've ordered a few different things because, you know, I had a birthday a couple of weeks ago and I let myself order some things. Plus I've got my regular yarn clubs coming, and my mailman has not been bringing them. I think he's currently on holiday or something, so maybe that explains it. But yeah, I don't know. There were a couple of times there where the mail from England was getting there before I knew it, but yeah, I'm expecting I think 3 different packages and they are still not here. So this is my kit from the Stitchery. This is Nikki Franklin Designs, and I did take it apart a little bit to make it a little easier. So the tag that was tied onto the envelope said Larkspur, and gorgeous fabric there. And this month's design are some lovely potted plants. This is what it will look like when it's done, hopefully. And it came with these gorgeous colored flosses, purples, greens, and pinks, which I am loving, loving, loving. The linen with the pattern printed on it, along with another piece of linen with sticky tape that you will stick on top of the potted plants to make that stand out a little bit. And I actually have not opened this part yet. I thought I would open it with you. So a true brown paper packages. So this is what comes in every kit, some little surprises. So in July's kit for Larkspur Lane, like Nancy Drew had a Larkspur Lane book. Nancy Drew reminds me so much of summertime because when I was little, I used to just voraciously read the Nancy Drew books when we were going on our summertime camping trips. So summer, Nancy Drew, I'm all about that. So, as with the past couple of kits, there are a couple of buttons. I'm hoping they all match and then I can use them all on one project. There is a lovely piece of linen and lace. And there is a fun little piece of fabric. And then there's another little pouch, which is taped shut and has something, ooh, interesting inside. And these are little, I think they're paper flowers. This one's got a bit of a velvety texture to it, but they feel so fine, like paper. Little pansies. I love pansies. And pretty hand cut flower. Look at that gorgeous pink. And then another little flower. So I will hold that up. One is falling on the lace so that you can see what they look like. So if I turn it too far, they might fall off, but there. And they are all, I think they're paper or just so intricately done. So those were the little surprises in my July Stitchery kit. And I have the year subscription. I have not started working on any of them yet. I started off with the May kit, and of course now I've got June and July, and then I will get my August kit later this month, I believe. So I need to get some stitching done. I need to do so many things. But anyway, that is my spoiler, and those are all the lovely things that I purchased while I was away. And oh, Scout. Who could not get that? They also had a couple other ones that were cute too, but that was the one I had to get. And that leaves me with an empty basket. It's now time for some bits and bobs, and this is my segment where I share anything and everything not necessarily knitting related. Scout has decided to leave us for this segment. I guess she knows I've got a lot to share after our trip away. And I do have a lot to share. I've got some video also to pop into the podcast this week, so you'll get to see a little bit of our trip to Boston, and I think I've got a little bit of footage from Salem as well. Or if I don't have footage video-wise, I do have some photographs I can pop in as well. And there's definitely a lot of beach time at Cape Cod. The beaches were interesting this year. It seemed, especially on the ocean side, very misty, and I'd never seen that before. Of course, we've been a few times, and whenever we've gone, the weather has been absolutely gorgeous. So we did have a little bit of rain this holiday, and that was okay. We found things to do every day. We had a great time. So we did leave the day before Nathaniel's birthday, so Nathaniel got to wake up in Boston, and he had a lovely breakfast. We went to Salem, and he went to a restaurant called Nathaniel's for his birthday, and I did get some photographs of him at Nathaniel's. And I had the Sophia special, which is scallops and shrimp on a risotto, and it is so delicious. And Nathaniel had some of mine as well, along with his elephant ears. And he really liked the shrimp and scallop. I think he ate half of my meal. And that was okay, because I really wanted to make sure I was saving room for dessert for their flourless chocolate cake, which is divine. And there's no other way I can describe this cake as in it's like chocolate butter. It is one of the best cakes. My mouth is watering thinking about it. It is one of the best cakes I have ever had. It's very rich, very chocolatey. It's gluten-free, and oh, if you are ever in Salem, Massachusetts, and go to Nathaniel's and like chocolate cake, Don't be put off with the flourless bit. It is, as I said, it's divine. Anyway, Nathaniel had one of those. I had one of those. And then Isaac had, I think he had a sundae. He had a brownie sundae. That was his dessert, and he was happy. And Isaac also had the Sophia special and really enjoyed it. The next day was my birthday, so we woke up in Boston and had a little bit of a sleep in. We had late checkout that day, which was good, and we also had breakfast at the hotel, which was a lovely brunch. And then we drove to Cape Cod, and of course when we arrived there, it was raining and we had to put the tent up in the rain. So there were some puddles in our tent, but we got the tent up, and then we decided to go out to Moby Dick's, which is a wonderful seafood restaurant in Wellfleet. And there's usually lineups because it is such a fantastic place. And again, Nathaniel's for Nathaniel's birthday, Moby Dick's for my birthday. We were spoiling ourselves. And Isaac and I both had the lobster roll, and Nathaniel had, I think he had chicken fingers and fries, and then was taking some of the lobster off of my lobster roll. So we enjoyed that. We were too stuffed for dessert afterwards, but it was a lovely, lovely meal. And then we went to the beach, which is where I did my cast on for my On the Spice Market. And then we went back to our campground, and it gets dark. We had no light. There's no electricity. It was bad. And it was a lovely day, and the rest of the week was equally as lovely. We did go to the beaches a few times, so we would wait until after 4, 5 o'clock because A, parking is free at that point. It's a lot less busy. And when we were on the ocean side, we were not going in the water like too far. I think I might have touched my toe in the ocean once on the Atlantic side. There's sharks in there, and it was Shark Week. We weren't, taking any risks. And there's a lot of seals when you are on the beach on the Atlantic side, and sharks like to eat seals. So I don't know. I would not want to be a surfer in a black wetsuit on a surfboard out there with the seals, because I would think you could be easily mistaken for a seal if you're in a black wetsuit. Not my cup of tea, but there were lots of surfers out there enjoying the waves. Crazy. And when we were on one of the nights, we were at which beach? So the first night we went to Nauset Light Beach, and that's where I did my cast on. And then a couple of days later, we went to Marconi Beach and walked down and just sat on the beach, and Nathaniel played in the water with the waves. He didn't go, he went up, to his knees because he didn't have his bathing suit, and his shorts were soaked by the end of it, and he was running away from the waves. The tide was also coming in at that time, so we didn't want to get too wet, and it was, a bit cooler in the evening, and saw some seals because they're out there. And then a few days later, we went to Coast Guard Beach. That was the one that was eluding me a few moments ago. And the night we went to Coast Guard Beach was the night that it was the full moon, and the full moon was rising. It was supposed to rise at 8:03 or 8:04 in Cape Cod. And we've never really, when you're in Toronto, you've got city all around you, you don't really see the moon rise very often. So we decided it was close to that time. Let's stay and watch the moon rise. But of course the clouds sort of came in. So the moon rise didn't actually happen until about 8:20 something. And there were a lot of people who came out to see it. And the bugs were really bad that night, but it was kind of nice to watch the moon rise, and especially when the glimmer of the moonlight on the ocean happened. That was really, really quite pretty. But there were a lot of seals out that night, and they were acting very strange, according to one of the locals. And one of the locals was telling us that he had been down the beach just a little bit and had seen the day before a seal that had just been attacked. He didn't see the shark, but had seen a seal had just been attacked. And there was a person who had an app called Sharktivity. And so it's an app that tells you when white sharks have been sighted. and they really keep track. So there's a bunch that are tagged, and then there are people who they see them and then they'll put it on the Sharktivity app, and there are sometimes photos on there as well. And he was explaining to us that especially during low tide, the seals go on the sandbars because it's a little bit safer for them, because of course they're shark bait. But between the sandbars in the channels, the sharks swim. So the sharks really aren't all that far offshore. And some of the sightings had been 50 feet offshore, which, you know, when you're going out there, it's low tide and they're not that far from you. No, thank you. So Isaac was not going in the ocean side. We did go to the bay side a couple of times and it was low tide. The bay side's great because the tide goes out and you can walk and you are out really, really far and you're still just at your knees. And if you're wearing shorts and not a bathing suit, you know, you don't want to get too wet because of course you have to drive away in wet shorts and that's never comfortable. So we did walk out a couple of times during low tide, but for the most part we spent our times in the kettle ponds. And the kettle ponds are inland ponds in Cape Cod, and Nickerson State Park where we stay has a few kettle ponds, and Flax Pond is where we did most of our swimming. I cannot tell you how gorgeous it is to swim in these ponds. You have to experience it. The water is so fresh. It's like spring-fed ponds. And the kettle ponds were created from glaciers. And just, it's fresh water. It's not too cold. It's not salty, which is nice. And it's just, you come out of there, you feel very, very refreshed. So there were many days we would get out of our tent in the morning. We'd be all ready to go down to the beach. And where we stayed this time, usually we stay in Area 4. This time we stayed in Area 1. And our campsite was, you walk to the water spigot and there were a set of stairs, gentle stairs, not crazy steep ones. And you just walk down and there was the beach, and you'd set up your chairs for a little bit and I would sit and knit for a while. And then when I got hot, I'd put my knitting away and I'd go for a swim. And that's where I got a lot of my On the Spice Market done. And the boys were in the water a lot of the time. I bought them a blow-up alligator and they had a lot of fun playing with that. And honestly, just playing in the kettle ponds was enough. The beaches weren't, like, the beach wasn't too crowded. There were people there for sure, but just, it's calm water. I mean, the waves are a lot of fun to play in the ocean for sure, but there's something about the freshwater kettle ponds in Cape Cod that just keep me coming back. And just every day pretty much we went for a swim. And the one day we did have rain, we were able to go for a swim in the morning, get up to the tent, get dried off, and then we went into Hyannis because that's when the rain was about to start. And we just had a lovely, lovely day. I do tend to try to avoid going to Hyannis, but on a rain day, I'll do it. But we spent a lot of time going to different little places. The great thing about Cape Cod is you just you take each day as it comes. And I love being in the center part. And as I said, I did go to 2 yarn stores, but that wasn't the main goal to the vacation. It was a lovely, lovely time. And we also went to the Cheesecake Factory in Boston, and on the way back from Albany, Boston, we had dinner and there was no room for cheesecake afterwards, so I promised the boys we'd have cheesecake later. So on the way back, we stopped in at Albany, and it was National Cheesecake Day, who knew, on July 30th, and we each had a piece of cake, and I had the Godiva cake, which is really, really lovely. Isaac had the Jubilee cherry cake, and I think Nathaniel had the Oreo cheesecake. So we were all very happy at the halfway point on the way back. And then we got back home and got laundry done, and things are starting to get back to normal. I needed to get my Handmade Sock Society socks off the needles, and that was released yesterday. And I'm just so happy that I've been able to share that with you. I'm sure there is so much more that I throughout the past week, I think, oh, I've got this to share. Oh yes, I forgot one. There is one more thing I wanted to share. When I got home, I needed to bring the spirit of Cape Cod with me. I was sitting on the porch working on my honeybee dance socks, and I'm not much of a gardener, and my garden was looking horrific, really weedy. I've got some lavender in the front garden, which was great for taking some photos of the honeybee yarn and also of my sweet bee socks, because some of the bees came while I was taking the photographs. But it was sort of getting to the point where it was wild and there were a lot of weeds growing in around it. So what we did was I offered to give Nathaniel a bit of money if he would weed the garden, because it was getting to the point where it was crazy. And I also offered some for Isaac. I wanted my garden redone, revamped. So what they did was they took the lavender and put it on the other side of our entrance stairs. There's a very dry garden. Not much survives there, but I think the lavender will actually do quite well there. And we cleared out the front garden completely. Before, there had been lavender, there had been at one point some peonies that just never really survived. I had a couple of very small hydrangeas that I'd been given for Mother's Day. One of them survived. That was the only thing that stayed in the garden, was the one hydrangea that survived. And that's because I wanted to just put hydrangeas in that front garden. So my idea had been to put 4 or 5 hydrangeas in the front, and then put the black chips or peat down around them, so hopefully that will reduce the weeds that come up. And the boys cleared out the garden. Greg and I went to a local garden center and got all of my hydrangeas for less than half price. And they're nice big size ones, and they will continue to grow. Brought them home. The boys planted them that night, and I now have a beautiful hydrangea-filled garden that reminds me of the gardens in Cape Cod. So that was one more thing that I did want to share, and I also got a fun little bit of video of Nathaniel doing some weeding, so I'll share that here as well. Boys did the garden for me the other day, and they put in these lovely hydrangea flower bushes. Oh, there's a lovely butterfly coming to see them. This poor little one had been given to me for Mother's Day, not this past year, the year before. We're going to see if it can survive, and we've got it along with these other beautiful flowers. The honeybees are already starting to visit. And on the other side of the stairs, we have the dry garden beside Greg's Vespa. And this is where all of the lavender came to. It's a bit of a mess over here, but lots of lavender, and nice to be able to save that. But the star of my garden, the hydrangeas. So lovely. And I'm so excited to see how they bloom over the next couple of years. And hopefully this black stuff will stop a lot of the weeds. An interesting thing I just saw as I was taking a photograph in the garden was there was a fortune on one of my hydrangeas, so a hydrangea fortune, and it says, "A firm friendship will prove the foundation on your success in life." So interesting. And lucky numbers for anybody who wants to know: 9, 11, 22, 30, 31, 48. So hydrangea fortune. Anyway, I think that is all I have to share on Bits and Bobs this week. It is right now Tuesday. My usual podcast day is Sunday. I wasn't feeling well the past couple of days, so I did take a little bit of an extended break, but I definitely wanted to podcast this week, and I'm so glad I have. I just now need to edit and get everything put together, and then I will get this out to the world. And I hope to get things back on track on the weekend and start the regular Sunday podcast. Although I'm going to say for the rest of the summer, I'm going to try and sort of take things as they come. So if things are a little bit a day or so late, it's because I'm trying to enjoy the last bit of my holidays before I go back to work at the end of August. Anyway, that is all I've got to share on Bits and Bobs. Happy birthday, Nathaniel. How old are you today?
9.
Ooh. And what are you eating, Isaac?
Grapefruit, cinnamon roll, a sausage, a waffle, and potato.
And that is your second plate. And Nathaniel, you ate your omelet, some of it, and then your other food, and you're now munching on your pastries. And Mommy has a fruit plate. She already ate some of her omelet and then gave some to Nathaniel. What's coming, Nathaniel? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nathaniel. Happy birthday to you. Nathaniel, what are you looking for?
Seals.
Seals, not sharks?
Shark.
And sharks. Isaac, do you see anything interesting?
I see a fin.
You see a fin, do you?
No, not a fin.
I saw a fin.
No, you did.
Yes, I did.
Of course you did. It is chilly out there, but there are
look,
people. Oh,
seal.
there's a seal right down. There he is in the water straight ahead. He's little though,
Yeah.
right bobbing on the water. Little tiny seals.
You are, little thing.
Seals, aka shark bait.
That looks like a shark fin.
No, that's a seal head. Yummy, yummy for sharks though.
5 seconds later, Megalodon shows up.
What's the water temperature, Isaac?
It's cold.
How cold?
I don't know, negative something.
If it was negative, something would be ice.
Oh, well, 60 something. Cold. I don't know temperatures. Here, why don't you dip your feet in?
No,
Instead of
thank
filming
you.
us.
Too cold.
Ah, so you know it's cold.
I do.
That is cold. It's way too cold for me. Stop running from the waves. Let them take ya.
No.
Mom, what are you doing?
I'm working on the spice market on the beach.
Right now?
Surf and spice.
Surf and spice?
Surf and spice.
Now we can see the surfers too.
No more surfers, just seals.
Oh.
Seals and knitting. That's all you need.
Seals in the thing. Stranded at the drive-in, branded fool. What will they say Monday at school?
Okay, Birdie bought roulette for my birthday gift, and I think I'm going to try one of these red ones. I'm very afraid.
Auntie,
It's not that bad.
Aunt,
It's like cinnamon.
Oh.
I won Birdie bought roulette. Yay.
You're lucky.
Cherry.
You're lucky.
Something,
You're
something
lucky.
sweet.
Okay.
You're lucky.
Where are you, Isaac?
Well, as you can see, I'm at a drive-in.
What are you watching?
I don't know what that is.
What were you watching?
Oh, Hotel Transylvania 3, which was actually very good. I'm surprised.
And what's up next?
Oh, Incredibles 2, which I know you're excited for, and I've seen twice.
And Hotel Transylvania, it is a full moon, so who's out?
Well, I guess all the monsters, but human relationships with monsters are pretty good. So ask him.
And here's a monster here. Here's a monster. Can't see him in the dark. Hi. What are you guys doing?
We are making a beach fire, and I want to show you this to turn. So, if you can see over there, if you're able to a little higher.
There you go, bad decision.
I'm not sure if you can see, but if you can see, there's a boat over there.
Way over there, way far away. There's seals that are closer, and probably sharks too. And lots of crazy swimmers. Whew. What you making, Nathaniel?
Hot dogs.
Careful around that fire.
I
Who ended up starting the fire?
know. Isaac, but people helped us that are over there. Well, they aren't now, but they were.
Who ended up starting the fire, Isaac?
Well, I set up the fire, but you lit it.
I did.
I asked you to because I seem to have a curse.
We are on the last day of our holiday. We are at the beach having a nice bonfire. I have been working on the Spice Market shawl, which is looking so beautiful, although lots of ends to sew in. We have the fire going over here. We have the waves, and the sun is going down. The moon is going to come up. There is actually a seal just in the water out there, which means that Sharky might not be too far away. And it has been a really lovely vacation, and I'm looking forward to working on the Spice Market when I get home and finishing it. What do you have there, Triton? King Triton?
My marshmallows. I command the sea.
Of course you do, King Triton.
I'm Calm Wave.
It's pretty calm out there.
That's why I command.
And eat marshmallows.
Hmm.
The bugs are biting me. No dorsal fins though today.
No, I commanded them not
That's no fun. Bless you.
to attack. anything water on the fire yet? Fire's not over. Excuse you.
What were you doing?
Getting water
Oh,
from the ocean.
yeah. And the ocean's over there. Did you see any seals?
Sadly, no, but if you can see very good, over there a couple hours ago.
Yeah, there's our fire.
Yeah,
And here's all of our shoes. And there's the big boy building a sandcastle
I don't know why,
with a
but
big wave crashing way behind
I
him.
believe that the heart will go on and on. You're ready, fighting me to fear. I believe that the heart will go on and on.
Ode to the Titanic.
I believe that the heart will go on and on.
How much do you have? $500. Oh! That doesn't mean you caught it.
It's nice just sitting by the
400.
fire. The waves lapping the beach and keeping nice and warm
Jackpot!
while the boys play. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this week. I always love sharing what I've been up to with you, and I hope that you've had a chance to just sit down, relax, and enjoy all of my crazy chatter about the things that I've been up to the past few weeks, because of course I've gone a lot longer than I normally do. I wish you a wonderful week ahead, a restful week. If you are in one of these current heat waves that many of the places around North America are dealing with, I wish you some cool. I'm hoping for some cool as well. And if you are in the southern hemisphere where you are having some winter knitting happening, I am wishing you lots of happy winter knitting as you dream of spring and summer to come. I'm not ready yet to dream of autumn, but maybe a little bit of a cooler weather. I liked being on the coast. I find the coast is the perfect spot, but Toronto humidity I can do without. But anyway, that is what I have been up to the past few weeks. I am looking forward to getting some more knitting done this week and sharing what I get up to the next time I see you. Have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you soon on the Comfy Red Couch. Bye.
A happy homemaker.
Everybody needs a project bag that honors their dog, I think. And this one is so perfect. Oh, you look so sad. Why are you so sad about this haircut? It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You look gorgeous. And you're so much cooler. Beautiful dog. Beautiful yarn bag. It's definitely all about Scout.